I wasn't initially sure if I was going to do a video on this showcase, but it has been like 2 months since my last longer video, so I thought this would be a nice way to ease back in. A couple things real quick though. First of all, if this video is a little shorter than most of my longer videos, my apologies. This show was just a little nondescript and I don't feel like hanging around some of these games and lingering like I do sometimes. And two, if my energy seems just a little bit lower than normal, my apologies. The last few months have been pretty messy in terms of my physical and mental health, and I'm still kind of dealing with it now, getting through it and figuring out what's going on. Among other symptoms lately, one of the biggest ones is that I've been feeling a little bit of pressure in my throat, so obviously I don't want to go over the top and really stress myself or my voice out too much, so if I seem a little more low energy, just know that it's because I don't want to hurt myself. But either way, another gaming showcase, something to talk about late in the year, so welcome back to I Want to Talk About, the series where I take a topic, I sit on camera, and I blabber about it. And as you could tell from the title, today I want to talk about the latest PlayStation State of Play Japan for November 2025. I did not think we were going to get another State of Play this year, because if you know Sony and you know their schedule with their State of Play shows, it's pretty self-explanatory. One in the early portion of the year, one right as the summer is kicking off, and then one around like September. This is also how Nintendo typically functions with their Nintendo Directs. You kind of know the drill at this point. But Sony decided to just come out and say, yeah, we're gonna host another one, specifically with a focus on games that were made by Japanese and Asian developers and publishers, which sounded like damn good news to me, because if you know anything, you know that Japan is the epicenter of gaming, and Japanese games are fucking awesome, as are other Asian published and developed games, of course. And the show was to be hosted by Yuki Kaji, a voice actor whose Wikipedia page reads like the frickin' telephone book. I mean, just the section alone on his roles in anime series, not just films, but anime series alone. Jeez, I was scrolling for what felt like 20 seconds. So I was actually kind of looking forward to this show. I know that State of Plays aren't the most amazing thing on the planet, but I had a feeling this one could be pretty good. But after watching it in all 40 plus minutes of its glory, I really thought it was going to be better than it actually was. I don't think it was a bad show, just a kind of bland one, and given that it was being touted as like, oh yeah, this is like a lot of Japanese developers and publishers, I was expecting to see a few more kind of heavy hitters this time around. Of course, I have my list of games, so we're going to go one by one and talk about them. The first thing that they showed was a game we pretty much already knew about and that I've talked about in a previous video, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. This I talked about in my video on the last Nintendo Direct, so I don't need to really rehash my thoughts on it here. The main character looks adorable. I love his little hat, and I'm sure the game's going to be cool, but it's just not something that I'm going to really jump in on because I don't really play a ton of turn-based RPGs, and I've never really played Dragon Quest, and I don't know if this is the game that'll be a starting point for me. But I know it's exciting to a lot of people, so I'm glad that it's happening, and it's coming February 5th, so that's a pretty cool thing to look forward to at the beginning of next year. From there, we got a look at inKONBINI, One Store, Many Stories, a new indie game from developer Nagai Industries. It's basically a cozy game where you man a coffee shop. Essentially kind of looks to me like Supermarket Simulator, but with coffee, which honestly is fine by me. I love me a good cozy game. I'm currently playing Power Wash Simulator 2 at the moment, and you guys are lucky I pulled myself away from it long enough to make this video. So this could be something that I get into, especially because it actually looks like it has a story and characters, and that element of the game seems pretty charming. So honestly, I might keep one eye out on this one. It's coming out next April, so we'll see how it goes. But if you really need your caffeine fix, we got another coffee-themed game right afterward, Coffee Talk Tokyo, the latest installment in Indonesian developer Togi Productions' Coffee Talk series, with this one, of course, moving over to Tokyo, as the name would suggest. I think I tried the first Coffee Talk game because it was on Game Pass, but again, most visual novels just aren't really for me, so the first one didn't really stick in my head very much. But again, if you're in the market for something cozy, here you go. Admittedly, it is cool that in the game you can serve descendants of Japanese yokai. I think that's kind of neat. Again, I probably won't play this myself, but it's pretty nice. And it's coming March 6th, so if you enjoyed the first few Coffee Talk games, here's another one that you can try out. Next up, I'm going to combine the next two games they showed into one entry in this video, just because they are in the same series and they talked about them consecutively. we got the showcasing of Broken Lore Unfollow and Broken Lore Ascend, two new entries in a psychological horror series from Japanese developer Serafini Productions, both kind of having a focus on the impact of social media, which, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense for a horror story. Apparently, Broken Lore is a hit horror series, one that I've never heard a peep about. I don't know, maybe I'm just not online enough? It's gotta be big somewhere if they called it a hit. I mean, don't get me wrong, the games do look very scary and ultimately pretty good. I was especially interested in Ascend with its whole climbing-based gameplay. But, and this tends to happen with some of these shows, you guys might even notice it if you look back on some of my videos, these feel like a pair of games that I watch in a show go, oh my god, that looks cool, I gotta keep an eye out for it, and then I just forget about them and don't keep my eye out for them. But I don't know, maybe I'll look out for these. Unfollow is coming out January 16th, and Ascend is coming out next summer, so if you are more familiar with the franchise than I am, it looks like you're getting some goodness next year. Another one I won't spend too much time on because we've talked about it already, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake. Again, we were really in the horror stuff with this part of the show. Again, I talked about this in my video on the last Nintendo Direct. I never played Fatal Frame before. I always was kind of fascinated by the series, but just never jumped into it. But this game does look pretty cool. Again, Fatal Frame's whole photography take on horror is actually pretty fascinating, and I wouldn't mind getting into the series myself at some point. Maybe this will be my entry point. I don't know. You guys can tell me in the comments if you think this will be a good entry point into the series, and if not, where should I start? And then after showing off the game, they chatted with the game's director, Makoto Shibata. I don't really care a lot for these interview-type moments in gaming showcases, so it was a bit of a pace breaker, but I understand why they do them, and it was still nice. And then they talked about some of the stuff that's coming to the Digital Deluxe Edition. Good for them. This is coming out March 12th, though, so it looks like something that's going to be pretty damn fun to look into in the early part of the year. Couple DLC announcements next. First off, we got to look at Dynasty Warriors Origins Visions of 4 Heroes. I'd never played the original version of Dynasty Warriors Origins, but I heard it was good and I did want to jump into it at some point. Maybe I will in the future, probably not through this DLC, but I mean, it's cool that they're going to be adding more to the game. But granted, when it comes to Warriors, I still haven't played the new Hyrule Warriors game, so if I'm going to jump into a new Muso game, it's going to be that. Still, cool to see this get more support, and this DLC is coming out January 22nd, so if you're really into Warriors, that's something to look forward to. And then we got a ton on Gran Turismo 7 getting some new content. Of course, a reminder about the Spec 3 update that was talked about in the last State of Play, so again, I don't have to repeat my thoughts on that. They also announced the Gran Turismo Power Pack, which they say will focus on real-world racing events. The game didn't focus on those already? I'm sure they just mean the 24-hour races or whatever that are coming to the game, but even still, this is what I get for not playing Gran Turismo. I have no idea what they're talking about. Both of those are coming later this year, and then they also reminded everyone about the Gran Turismo World Finals that are happening on December 20th in Fukuoka, Japan, so cool, I guess. Again, when it comes to racing games, I prefer the ones with karts. I don't really play a lot of the realistic ones, so a lot of this stuff just flew right over my head. But one thing that didn't fly over my head was the next game they showed, MotionRec, a new game from Japanese developer Handsome, spelled like this. This to me was one of the cooler looking games here. It's like a 2D puzzle platformer, but you like record your movements in the game and then you can like play them back in later areas to help you get through them. So like for example, if you like fall down from a platform, dash, and then like jump to get to the end of the platform, you like record yourself doing that, and then in the next area you can use that recording and play it back to help you get through the next area, which is pretty cool. For some reason, I got some Celeste vibes from the trailer, even though it's not made by the same team or even features anything close to the same aesthetic. But it's got a nice vibe. I love how the visuals are so simplistic. I'm sure the game is going to be uber punishing because a lot of games like this are uber punishing, but it's a game I would definitely like to see more of. And hopefully soon because it's coming out in the spring, so that's something really fun that I might keep an eye out for. Genuinely, not like the joke I made earlier, like I really think I want to keep an eye out for this one. From there, we got the announcement of Wandering Sword, a PS5 port of a 2023 RPG from developer The Swordman Studio. This version also includes all of the DLC that was released for that game, so that's nice. It seems to be a pretty well-liked game from some of the reviews I was reading, so I'm glad to see that it's coming to another platform. I have also heard that it's coming to the Switch and the Switch 2, which I think this kind of game is perfect for. But again, I'm not into a ton of turn-based RPGs, so this is one that I'm probably gonna skip. I love the HD 2D aesthetic. I think HD 2D games look amazing, and graphically I think it's one of my favorite art styles, but yeah, as far as the game goes, I'll leave this one to the people that are more interested in it. It's coming out May 28th, so there's going to be a little bit of a wait, but hopefully you guys are more excited for it than I am. Speaking of ports, we then got the announcement of No Sleep for Kaname Date from the Somnium Files coming to PS5. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in a couple previous Nintendo Direct videos. I know I did at least once. It came out for Switch earlier this year, but again, it's just now coming to PlayStation, so that's fun. Again, visual novel type game, not really my thing, but it's cool for those that are more interested because I have heard that this game is good. It's coming out February 26th. That's nice. Next game. Tokyo Xtreme Racers. I barely knew about it, but apparently this is a long-running racing franchise from Genki. Seemingly this game has been in early access since January, but it's just finally getting a full release. And it's also the first time a game in this series, or a game adjacent to this series, has launched since 2007. So that's pretty crazy to see it come back. And honestly, this is a game I'm kind of digging. I know I've mentioned that I don't play a lot of realistic car games. I kind of prefer games with karts, like I said. But I do like this one because it's kind of giving me some like Need for Speed or even slight Burnout vibes, maybe without the destruction of a game like Burnout, which I can get behind because I love me some Burnout, and it seems like we're never getting another one of those games. So if this is the closest approximation, then I'm cool with it. It might not be one of those games I like immediately jump on when it comes out, but it's something that might be fun if I can like find it on sale or if it comes to PS Plus or something like that. And it is coming February 26th, so pretty soon, so I guess we'll see how it turns out. And for the sake of the fact that it's coming from a long-running franchise that hasn't gotten a game in so long, I hope this one turns out good. Then we got a bunch of DLC. Like really, a lot of this show was DLC, but we got a bunch in like a pretty quick succession, so I'm gonna blow through some of these. Once Upon a Katamari is getting a pair of music remix packs with some character accessories, and there's no release date, though apparently it's coming before the end of the year, thank you. Pac-Man World 2 Repack is getting a crossover with Sonic that adds some Sonic levels, and it was released on the day of the State of Play, which is honestly really cool. Now I have to jump back into Pac-Man World 2, because those levels look pretty cool. Digimon Story Time Stranger is getting some new Digimon and a special episode coming this winter. Cool, thanks. Super Robot Wars Y is getting crossovers with a couple series, new area missions, and playable units on November 21st. Okay, right. Monster Hunter Wilds is getting Title Update 4 with some endgame missions, seasonal events, the usual stuff that comes with a Monster Hunter title update. It's coming December 16th. Was this really the only thing that Capcom showed? And Sonic Racing Crossworlds. There was a reminder that Knights, II from Super Monkey Ball, and even Whisper and Tangle from the IDW comics are coming on November 20th alongside the SpongeBob pack, so that's neat. Now back to proper games, the next one we saw was Nevergrave the Witch and the Curse, a new game from developer Frontside 180, a subsidiary of Palworld developer Pocket Pair. It's a 2D Metroidvania that kind of looks like Hollow Knight to me. Actually, scratch that, it looks a lot like Hollow Knight to me. Honestly, 2D Metroidvanias like this are all over the place, so it's not a genre that I like fall out of my chair when I see. It looks good, but it's just not really blowing my mind. I feel like I might need to see a little bit more of it. Which is why they sat and talked with development director Yasuomi Sakai as well after showing the game. So yeah, I guess they just needed to remind me a little bit more of it. The interview portion here didn't last nearly as long though, so it wasn't super pace-breaking, and the game's coming out March 5th, so hopefully that's something you're looking forward to in the early part of the year. But in terms of 2D games, the next thing they showed was much more interesting to me. BlazBlue Entropy Effect X, a 2D roguelite action game in the BlazBlue series, which caught me by surprise. I actually didn't even know this was already a game. My understanding of BlazBlue was always that it was a fighting game. As a matter of fact, the only BlazBlue game that I've really played was BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, which was awesome. But yes, excuse me for forgetting that games are allowed to branch out beyond convention and be more than what they traditionally are. It's being developed by Chinese team 91 Act, and apparently the game was already released on PC last year without the X in the name, but it's just now coming to consoles with an X in the name. That last part's important. The reviews I've read for the game were pretty positive, and I'm glad to hear that because it does look very fun. Again, I've seen and played enough roguelites to gag a maggot at this point. It's a pretty saturated market, but this is one I definitely wouldn't mind trying out. It does look very stylish. And it's coming February 12th, so again, something cool to look forward to in the early part of the year. From there, another pretty unique one, Damon and Baby, an action-adventure twin-stick bullet hell game from Arc System Works. God, they are busy at this point. About a man and his baby. Title writes itself, doesn't it? Honestly, the game does look really fun. Combining the bullet hell style with like RPG elements, it looks like it's going to be a pretty big game in terms of the sheer size and the amount of content it has going for it. Not a game that's at like the top of my most anticipated list or anything like that, but it looks like one that I'd be interested in playing, and it's coming out early next year, so That's one I'd definitely like to see a little bit more of. Next up, I apologize in advance for potentially mispronouncing this game's name. We got the announcement of Kyurin Makaism, a new game from Nippon Ichi Software, the Disgaea team, and apparently from what I've read, this is a Disgaea spin-off. Though where that series is more known for being turn-based, this is a full-blown action game, which again is cool with me. I'm way more interested in action RPGs than turn-based ones. And this one looks decent. It's definitely giving me some strong Muso vibes, but not in the same 1v1000 way that Dynasty Warriors is. At first when I saw it during the show, I was worried it was going to be one of those like Genshin style RPGs where it's like technically single player, but it's got like live service elements to it. But no, it looks like it's pure single player, which is nice. Not the most enthralling game that I've ever seen, nothing that I'm like jumping out of my chair to grab, but it looks like it could be pretty fun. And it's coming out January 29th, so again, if the early part of the year ends up being slow, this is one that I may look into. Then we got the announcement of Fate Trigger, a new debut game from developer Star Oasis Studio, a Chinese developer that's a subsidiary of Tencent. Make of that what you will. Unsurprisingly, given that info, it's an anime-style tactical hero shooter, and by this point in the show, I was officially investigating my wall with a magnifying glass because it was a more stimulating hobby. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but I've said this before, there's very little you can do to excite me about a game when you put the words hero shooter anywhere in the conversation with it. Apparently though, Yuki Kaji, you know, the show's host, remember him, mentioned that he's going to be voicing a character in this, so hey, good for him. And it's coming early next year, so hopefully that's one you guys are looking forward to more than I am. Nearing the end of the show, we then got another showing of Octopath Traveler 0, which I talked about in a video on one of the previous Nintendo Directs. Again, I've never really gravitated toward Octopath Traveler, and turn-based games don't do a whole lot for me. I remember trying like the demo of the first Octopath Traveler, but that was it. So this is definitely out of my wheelhouse, and personally, while I knew we weren't going to see like a ton from them, it was a little personally disappointing to me that this and that Dragon Quest remaster were pretty much the only things that we got out of Square Enix from this show. Like, I don't want to act ungrateful and be like, oh, they needed to show Kingdom Hearts 4 and Final Fantasy VII Reed Richards. But again, this was a pretty light showing from Square Enix, and I was hoping for at least a little bit more. Even that Adventures of Elliot game, or whatever it was called, that they showed at that one Nintendo Direct alongside this one, I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Either way, Octopath Traveler 0 is coming December 4th, and there was a demo released after the show that let you play the first 3 hours of the game, which is pretty nuts. Granted, I know by RPG standards that's probably nothing, but still. And thankfully you can transfer your data from the demo to the base game when it comes out, which you'd better be able to do if it's 3 hours worth of demo. Then the one first party thing we got to see at the show, another showcase of Marvel Tōkon Fighting Souls. Or is it Tōkon? This was basically the game I was most hoping to see before the show, though the way it was showcased was a little bit iffy to me. It was basically just 5 minutes of chatting with the game's producer, Takeshi Yamanaka, and the game's art director, Tetsuya Kurosaka, and they did show like a trailer for the second closed beta. I'm glad to see the game at all. It's one of my most anticipated games of next year, and I'm very excited for it. But I think I would have just preferred the trailer itself. There is some cool stuff coming to it though, like a stage based on the X-Mansion, and again, the second closed beta is going to feature Spider-Man and Ghost Rider as playable characters, the latter being Robbie Reyes as opposed to Johnny Blaze. So it's cool that fans will get to try those guys out, and again, the game still looks spectacular. It's just that the way that they showed it here was a little bit pace-breaking for me. Doesn't change that I'm still pumped for the game. That second closed beta, I didn't even know there was a first, but the second closed beta is coming from December 5th to 7th, and again, the full game is going to be sometime next year. I can't wait to play it whenever it's ready. This is what I thought the show would end with, but it turns out no, they had a much bigger thing up their sleeves to end with. Elden Ring Nightreign The Forsaken Hollows DLC. That's it. The final game announcement of the show is DLC for the Elden Ring multiplayer spin-off. Look, I don't want to dare say anything mildly negative about the lords and saviors over at From Software, because I know that slight criticism sets fans of their games into irrational anger, and I don't want to piss anyone off. And of course, I don't want to act like Nightreign is a bad game, because I've heard it's good. But is DLC for Nightreign that exciting to have as a one last thing for a gaming showcase? Suddenly, I regret criticizing the way that Marvel Tōkon was presented, because honestly, I would have taken that as the conclusion of the show, even if it was just 5 minutes of chatting. Again, I'm sure this is really exciting to someone, probably a lot of people, and I'm sure there's stuff in here that From Software fans are really excited about, that Elden Ring fans are really pumped about, but as the conclusion of the show, yeah, it was forgettable. The DLC is coming December 4th though, so it's coming pretty soon, and hopefully that's something you guys are looking forward to more than I am. Now that pretty much does it in terms of the actual games that they showed, but they weren't entirely done yet. They did have a couple other miscellaneous things to talk about. First off, they wanted to remind everyone that the PS5 is 5 years old in case you wanted to, I don't know, just either get existential, ponder the passage of time, live with the fact that 2020 was 5 years ago, or ponder why it feels like there's been so few first-party games from Sony in that span. Then they showed off a new 27-inch HDR gaming monitor with a 240Hz refresh rate that they're putting out because they want you to turn your PS5 into a PC instead of buying an actual one. And get this, the real kicker to finish the show, they ended off by announcing, get this, a Japanese-only digital PlayStation 5. Yes! Yes! Wow, it's everything I've ever dreamed of! I mean, it's apparently 55,000 yen, which is essentially 355 US dollars, so that's not a bad price, but honestly, who is this announcement for? I've read that this is to help Japanese audiences because apparently wages have been super stagnant in Japan and yen has depreciated in value a lot. Thus, it's kind of harder for Japanese gamers to buy consoles. I think Nintendo had to do a similar thing with the Switch 2 so that people could afford Switch 2s. And the purpose of making it Japanese only is to prevent us American audiences from importing it for a cheaper price. So if this helps Japanese gamers, that's a great thing, but it still felt like an odd note to end the show on. You could have brought this up at the beginning even, like just say it at the beginning, just get it out of the way and be like, alright, cool, thank you. Or just not put it in the American broadcast of the show. I know that it's called State of Play Japan, but Nintendo has had separate announcements in Japanese broadcasts of their directs that didn't show up in the US version, so Sony could have done that here. I think you could have cut this announcement out of the American broadcast of the Direct and it wouldn't have changed a thing. Did I call it a Direct? State of Play? You know what? State of Plays are basically just Nintendo Directs with a Sony skin, so if I want to call it a Direct, I'm going to call it a Direct. But yeah, it's coming out November 21st, which is this week. There's a very good chance that it will be out by the time you watch this video, so to Japanese audiences, if this helps you guys, great, but yeah, I don't know why this needed to close the show. Also, I love that I said I wanted to take it easy on my voice and then screamed in excitement because of the announcement of the PlayStation 5 Japanese-only digital edition. I mean, that's hype as fuck, let's be real. That's worth giving out your voiceover. So overall, yeah, this show was kind of disappointing. Not absolutely terrible, but it just wasn't that amazing. There was a decent variation of titles. Like, it did feel like they weren't just, like, lingering on one style or one genre. I know I've talked in some previous State of Play videos about how they have, like, a lot of action games that look like each other. It didn't feel like there were a lot of games in this show that looked like each other, but this show was like when someone is telling a really, really long story and you're like, good God, this story really needs a car chase or a CGI skybeam, and there's no car chase or CGI skybeam. It just felt like there wasn't much of like a heavy hitter at the show. Like the fact that they ended with, like I said, the Elden Ring Nightreign DLC made it feel like they just didn't have something huge to finish off with. I mean, they kept showing Toro from Doko Demo Isio throughout the show, which made me think they were gonna do something with the character in terms of like a new game, but nope. Just there to be window dressing. Like I said, I'm not the type of person that needed them to do Kingdom Hearts 4, Final Fantasy 17, or Bloodborne anything to make it a good show, but it just kind of felt like there was not much that made me think this show needed to happen. I know it's a running joke to say that some of these showcases could have been an email, and I don't know if this one could have been an email, but yeah, it definitely could have been bigger than it was, especially with it being touted as like the Japan show. Again, Japan is like the epicenter of gaming. A lot of the best publishers and best developers, I would say, are in Japan. So when you set that expectation, yeah, I expect the show to be a little bit bigger. But when you have, like, 2 smaller Square Enix titles, a Capcom DLC, and, like, only a few signs of, like, Bandai Namco, yeah, you kind of lost me right from the jump. So yeah, certainly not the worst thing I've ever seen, but all in all, just not that exciting of a show. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it, like, a C- to a C. Nothing that incredible, nothing that actively, like, made me angry. It just kind of felt like there were a couple moments where I was like, huh, okay. But then by the end of it, I just thought, that's it. It could have been worse. but it also could have been a lot better. But of course, that's just my opinion on the State of Play Japan. What did you guys think about it? Did you enjoy it way more than I did? Did you hate it way more than I did? Are you just completely indifferent toward it? What were your favorite games from the show? And what were some games you were hoping to see from the show that you didn't? Again, I know I mentioned some of the stuff like Kingdom Hearts 4 or whatever. Again, I don't know if I ever expected to actually see it, but what were some games that you were hoping to see that you didn't, or that you expected to see but didn't? Whatever your thoughts and opinions are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe and support some of my other ventures that I have linked in the description, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. And yeah, in terms of what's next, obviously, you know, it's coming closer to year-end time, so most of the videos that you're going to see next in terms of long-form stuff are going to be my typical year-end videos. 10 years later videos on albums from 2015, the albums I didn't review in 2025, my favorite games of 2025, my most anticipated games of 2026. That one, again, you'll probably see at the beginning of next year. The typical stuff you would expect from this time of year. Again, if I can't get all of it out, like, super duper quickly, my apologies. I'm still figuring out what's going on with my body and all this stuff. Again, I just tired the shit out of myself yelling over the PlayStation 5 Japanese-only digital edition. Because you won't see this, but I did 2 takes of that, so I think I just took a lot of energy out of myself. But I will try to have those videos out in as timely a fashion as I can, and even if I can't, I've got plenty of other short reviews to do. So stay tuned for those, but until next time, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.